And we're back with Michelle Grocholsky. We are talking about DEI, and you have been very, very candid about the problems of how DEI has been applied and how it's really become, in many respects, aside from some slow governments, a dirty word. And it's unfair. And yet we do need something, because I think society generally has made some great progress against racism, against prejudice, against certain people because they look different or whatever. But how do we deal with that situation out there of people being passed over because they are a white male and someone else gets a higher paying job simply because they are different?
For every one person who has been looked over, a white man who's been looked over for an opportunity, there have been countless examples of people who are from systemically marginalized communities that have also been overlooked across time. And that's a really important note to say, we are much more conscious now that the way in which we've been making decisions has been biased, that the way we define merit has been, in fact, holding up a mirror to who's already in the organization and comparing.
But that's the organization, though. Maybe the organization is one that deals with and profits from being like that. Not racist, but you aren't going to have a church choir, for instance, doing much with hip hop music. That's not their market. And so some companies, you have certain elements of fairness, and you won't want that company to go through an economic downturn because they have employees who have no idea of what their customers are like.
And this is the key benefit of having diversity, is if you are serving a diverse market base,
right,
if you have customers that range across the Canadian population, have differences in religion and age and abilities, you do want to have a workforce that can anticipate the needs of those communities and design and deliver products or services that meet those needs. It's about making sure that our organizations have the capacity to think differently so that we can not be in an ideological echo chamber, agree with one another all the time, but rather anticipate the different needs that our community members or our clients might have so that we can be more innovative and responsive to those needs over time.
So we aren't in separate silos in these insular sort of parts of our society, but it is, as you say, diverse. And diversity of itself, I would argue, is a good thing, and yet diversity is our strength, I would argue, is absolute baloney, because you can't have everybody going off in different directions at once.
And
that's not strength.
And the research shows that highly diverse teams without inclusion or equity tend to be lower performing, because what ends up happening is they spiral into relationship conflict. There's a lack of trust, and so they don't produce. So it is important to, of course, hire folks who are qualified for the job, who do not think and act like one another, because we know that if we can bring different perspectives, different backgrounds, we are going to be greater than the sum of our parts.
Right.
And the way that we do that is by making sure that when we're making those decisions, we're not just favoring people who are just like us, right? That you're not just repeating the cycle. And so the antidote for organizations is to do the work of asking, if we have not had folks from different communities represented, why might that be? What are the barriers? What are the obstacles that might have prevented people from getting hired or promoted or, retained within our organization? But for those of us who perhaps are not in a position of hiring or leadership, it's every time we notice ourselves making an assumption about somebody,
right,
whether it's this person feels, they feel really friendly. I gravitate toward them. Or maybe it's the opposite. That person just feels a little off to me. It's about having a curious and open-minded mindset to say, why am I thinking that? Is it because that person is familiar to me or similar that I might have more positive feelings? Or maybe I haven't encountered a person that is from this community, and so I have some of that hesitancy. It actually might not be about the person being, dangerous or untrustworthy. It might actually just be about your own lack of comfort. And so before you make a judgment, it's about questioning that impression that you have of them in the first place.
What's your first impression of people with bow ties? No, that's an unfair question. You have
very intelligent.
I know thousands of people who would disagree with you. Thank you very much. That was insightful. And I just want the viewers to know we're dealing with the situation of DEI and there are problems with it, but it's better than the alternative. And, let's make a go of it. And you've been so thoughtful on that, and I'm almost out of time. So thank you very much,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Good for you to be here. And that's it.